Before we get started, just in case there's anyone here who doesn't know me, I want to introduce myself. I'm Shelly Paulson, and I'm a full-time equine photographer based in Minnesota. We just had a snowstorm yesterday, but it's already melted, so that's good. It was actually like I woke up at about 2 or 3 in the morning, and it sounded like things were hitting our house, and it was like this horrible sleet coming off the trees and hitting our roof. So if I look a little sleepy, I have like this weird twitch in my eye tonight. But anyway, do full-time photography, but then in addition to photography, I also help photographers grow their skills in business through mentorships and online instruction. And this evening, what I want to share is something that's been on my heart for a while about business, and that is that I don't believe that there is one right way to do business. And I believe that you can be a business owner who follows your heart and not just some guru's business formula. And a little bit of a background on why I'm so passionate about this is that 18 years ago, I started doing photography. And at first I was like a lot of you, and I had imposter syndrome, and I really wasn't a very good photographer. And someday I'll do a blog or social media post to prove that. And so I couldn't like look people in the eye with a straight face and say, I am a photographer for like quite a while. And then I really started to kind of figure out how to be a good photographer. And I was able to do that, look people in the eye and say, I'm a photographer. But then I had a really hard time looking people in the eye and saying, I'm a business owner or I'm an entrepreneur, because I don't feel like I fit the mold of your typical successful business owner. I'm soft, I'm sensitive. If you know the term highly sensitive person or HSP, I'm definitely that. I'm very empathetic. And that's not exactly like what you picture when you picture like a business owner or a successful business owner. Like I think of Shark Tank, which is one of my favorite TV shows of all time. And if you want to be a great business owner and you've never watched Shark Tank, you are missing out on like a totally free education in business. I mean, it's not obviously comprehensive, but it's also very, very entertaining. So anyway, so I didn't look like the person that would, or feel like the kind of person who would have a successful business, but that wasn't actually the case. While staying true to my heart, I've been able to create what I would consider a heart-driven business. And it supports the life that I want to live on my little 5-acre hobby farm with my husband and my 3 beautiful horses, my 2 dogs. One you can see like hanging in the corner of the frame right here. That's Charlie. And, a couple of cats. We have barn cats, but they're really garage cats. But anyway, so this isn't to say that I haven't worked like super hard to get where I am. But I didn't have to check my heart at the door in order to get there. And what does it look like to be a heart-driven entrepreneur? And I really struggled actually with the word driven. And after a good night's sleep, I realized centered might have been a better term, but okay, we're going to go with heart-driven. What it looks like is defining your business and your success based on your values. So do you want to make a certain amount of money, or is time with your family or your horses or both more important to you? And not that these things are mutually exclusive. And neither of them are wrong as long as you're following your heart and letting your values guide your path. So it's about letting your heart set the course for your business and the day-to-day decisions that you make. Excuse me, I'm going to take a drink. What it doesn't look like is giving your services away and underpricing. You have to value what you do and do the hard work of properly running your business so it generates the profit you need it to make in order to make it worthwhile for you. And so I don't want to make this sound easy. It's not just kind of this mamby-pamby woo-woo, we're just going to follow our heart and everything's going to come together. In fact, I think it's actually harder to follow your heart and your intuition and all that than it is to follow a formula, because there's a lot less predictability and maybe a bit more uncertainty. So, an example from my own journey that I know some of you have heard because I share it on podcasts a lot. In 2013, I slipped on a wet concrete floor at a car rental facility and I landed head first. And I had a concussion, which in about 5 days I came to realize was a traumatic brain injury. And the result of that fall was severe headaches, foggy thinking. I couldn't find the right words. I was a wedding photographer at the time, and I would be like, you know, that thing, the flowers on your lapel, and someone's like, corsage or boutonniere, and I'd be like, yeah. Or one time I remember, you know, the thing you put the kids in and you push it, and stroller. Yeah, stroller. Or I would find a word that was like near the word that I wanted. Like even now, actually, I still have, like, I can't come up with the word possum. It always comes out aardvark. And I have no idea why, but it's now this like internal joke in our family that we actually have a stuffed possum. It was kind of a joke from one of my neighbors that we call it the aardvark. But anytime that I had to deal with like flashing lights or lots of noise or stress, I would just have like these horrible headaches. All my symptoms would get worse. So, as that was in May of 2013, I had an entire summer of weddings planned, booked, and I couldn't not do them. So you can imagine like how hard that was. And after a few years of like just pushing through those weddings, whew, with copious amounts of Advil, my poor stomach and liver, my heart finally, I heard my heart say that it was time to quit weddings. And honestly, if I really was honest with myself, my heart had been telling me that for a while, but I was making a lot of money at weddings, and it was a nice thing. You'd get your deposits in the winter and you'd get your, balance payments throughout the year. And so, it wasn't this seasonal thing that portrait photography, outdoor portrait photography is. But I had to do it. I had to find out if I could quit weddings and just photograph horses full time. And it was a huge risk and a huge leap of faith to quit because I didn't know if I could make a living at equine photography. I didn't do shows, and so there wasn't a lot of people out there doing, like full-time portrait equine photography, especially in the north here where our season's really short. Like we have no green here yet. We won't get green until early May. And so I was like, well, we're gonna find out. And I quit weddings, and it took like about a year to work back up to, maybe actually more than a year, to work up to the same profitability that I had with weddings. So, but when I focused all my energy on my equine work, it grew because when you put your whole energy into something, there's bound to be an increase. So instead of being divided between weddings and horses, I focused on horses, and now my income far exceeds what I made or probably even could have made with weddings. So, but not all my heart-driven decisions have been like these big monumental ones where I quit this or start that, which I do quite a bit still. But I also let my heart lead in just like the day-to-day decisions. Like, does this feel like the right price to send this client? Is this the right client for me to be working with? Do I feel some red flags here? Is there some reason why I wouldn't want to do this job? Or maybe it's whether or not to send somebody a difficult email or when the right time for that is. I do a lot of checking in with my heart and my gut in those situations. So let's shift a little bit, and I want to talk about creating a business around your heart, your values, and your life goals. So I used to think very black and white about how to run a photography business until I met Stace. Stace is a mom whose primary lifestyle goal is to be at home, raising her kids and homeschooling them. But she's also a photographer, and she loves to serve other moms with her talents. And after mentoring Stace, I realized that there are many ways that people can have a photography business that are completely valid. She is no less a photographer, and her goals are no less noble than someone who wants a six-figure business. And I've also worked with Lee, who wants to work full time and do her photography business on the side and slowly build it into a profitable and sustainable business that she can have for extra income when she retires in 5 or 6 years. So everybody's different, right? And that's why I think every photographer can and should create a business that fits their own goals and define success in their own way. It literally makes me sad because I've been in this business for a really long time, and I've seen photographers who have had to quit and move on to other jobs because they thought they had to be somebody else in business in order to be a success. So can you relate? If you are struggling to figure out how you can design a photography business you love that supports your lifestyle and your financial goals, I'd like you to pop into the comments and share a little bit about that. And then I'll just try to kind of give you guys some thoughts and feedback. The next thing I want to do is share with you 3 things that I think you for the event that has it where you could print it out and write these things down. So first step, look at your overall business and ask, am I letting my heart lead my business, or am I following along with a formula or copying someone else's business model? And the second is to take some time, listen to your heart, maybe get quiet, turn your phone off, turn your computer off, light a candle, and just ask if there might be a better path for you. And ask yourself the question, if my business was truly a reflection of me, what would that look like? And finally, write down 3 steps that you can take today to start to make changes in your business so it better reflects you and your heart. Okay, so if this whole idea resonates with you, and honestly, like I have been tuning into a couple of resources, a book and some articles and Facebook groups with people like me whose hearts led their business, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not alone. Like I felt like such an anomaly, and maybe I wasn't doing it right because I'm not that typical business owner. So if that's you, and this really resonates with you and you feel ready to make that shift to a heart-driven business and would like to have somebody help you get there, I would like to invite you to join this year's Pegasus Mentorship. If you don't know, if you haven't seen my many emails and posts, Pegasus is a 6-month advanced mentorship for experienced equestrian photographers who want to grow their business and learn higher level skills. And I think having high level skills is actually part of growing a business as a photographer. And there are just 2 spots left, 2.5, because I'm talking to somebody right now about one of them. But one of my main goals with this mentorship is to help each person build a business that they love, that authentically reflects who they are and the goals they have in their life. And the application deadline is Friday, April 8th, or until it fills. Once it fills, then it's done. So I will put a link to that in the comments too if you would like to learn more. So I want to jump here in the comments and see what we've got going on here. All right, heading down. Kelly says it's hard to follow your heart sometimes. And that's really true because your heart is not a very concrete thing to follow. I think that's why we're all on the surface drawn to formula. Because if we can have a formula, then we can predict the outcome. And honestly, like even just being in business is an exercise in living with uncertainty. I don't have an entire year's worth of work booked. I'm sitting around here kind of going, oh, I don't know what this year looks like. I have a few things planned, but most of my stuff is booked, a month, 2 months ahead of time. It's a ton of uncertainty. And Ashley said that's what holds her back, the fear of taking that step. Yeah, it is really hard. And I have to give props to my husband. I will say we are both freelancers. So I don't have a husband who has like a full-time job and benefits and whatever. He literally walks in my office once a day and is like, "Oh, I got booked for a job on this day or that day." But the month of April when we started it, neither of us had any work. And so that is an exercise in faith. Cindy wants to be a weekend photographer, work at her full-time job. Yes, and like Lee, have something to, when she retires in a few years. And I think that's great. And I think the key there is that you're still, charging an appropriate amount to make it worth your time, because especially when you're doing photography along with a full-time job, or any business along with a full-time job, you're giving up a lot of your free time and maybe the time you'd have with your horses or your family. And so you definitely don't want to think of yourself, oh, I'm a weekend photographer, so I don't, I shouldn't charge as much. It's still worth what it's worth. And Brandy struggles with the equine business. Yeah, ultimate goal is to back off families and focus on equine. And it is hard, and the hardest thing I think is especially when you've been doing families and they've come to really depend on you as their photographer. One way you could make that transition smoother would be to say, I'm only going to keep doing families for people that I've done family work for, and then you're not taking on new people, and then you can, slowly those families will grow up, and then you won't have families anymore. Or you can just go cold turkey. Erin says it's hard because there's a lot of pressure with social media and to spend endless hours creating content. Now, this is one of the things I really love about being heart-driven, is you can just say no to TikTok. You can say no to Reels. You can do your business however you want to do business. Today, my husband said something about TikTok. I'm like, not on TikTok. That's like just one pass. There's nothing wrong with it. I just have to have boundaries in my own life and heart and brain. And for me, that was just, I like Instagram, I like Facebook. And I think the reason a lot of us feel like we have to do all this social media is actually stemmed in fear. That the fear that if we're not keeping up, then we will somehow miss out on business. But the other side of that, of living by faith and trusting your heart, is trusting that the right people are going to find you at the right time. Like if you don't personally consume TikTok, then don't produce for TikTok, and because maybe your people aren't on TikTok. If you love TikTok and you love producing content for TikTok, then be on TikTok. And that's the thing about it, is you can decide what you want to do, and if you can get out of that place of fear and into a place of faith and following your heart, then you can be rid of that I should kind of thing with all these things. Okay. Brandy, stay-at-home mom, full-time photographer, raising prices is hard. Yeah, and I think a lot of that, Brandy, is going to be, how you raise your value. And because if you can raise your price and get less clients at higher prices, you will have more of that time for your family. And the way to do that is, either to increase your skill level or to create a better client experience. Maybe it's how you guide people through the process. I don't know if you're doing any kind of in-person sales or not. But yeah, finding ways to add more value. There was this great video. Oh my gosh, I'll put this in the comments too. And it was about a pen. And this guy gives this talk about how, like, if this pen just sitting on the table and how much value it has. And then he goes through all these different steps of like different ways that the same pen is presented and how it adds the value. And so a lot of times we just think about the price, but we don't think about how we add value to our clients. And so I'll put that in the notes later too, or in the comments. Karen's struggling with how to price her time at some large multi-day events. Yes, pricing is, I think, especially as a heart-driven entrepreneur, I feel like pricing is like the hardest part of my business these days. Oh, it's hard. Okay. How can equine photography surpass wedding photography income? Did I have to travel to other states? So Raphael asked this question, and I do more than portrait photography. So I also do commercial work and I sell stock photos. And I have the blessing, the giant blessing of a one of the bigger show jumping teams in the country is 15 minutes. Their Minnesota home is 15 minutes from my house. And we met at a clinic just right when they were getting started. It's eye candy jumpers, right before they were getting started into show jumping. And she hires me frequently to either photograph the foals that they're raising here or go to Florida or other places. And that's been a great relationship that I really treasure. And she's become a friend of mine, which I love that. All right. Cindy struggles to find clients. Oops, I lost Cindy here. And prices are within reason. Yeah, finding clients is definitely a challenge. Yeah, I'm not really, it's hard to say like what that might be without really kind of digging deep into what you're doing. But I did just send out a marketing tip email this a couple days ago that I can put a link in the comments to that too, of just 5 ideas on things that you can be doing right now to market your portrait business. Erin is grateful. Jessica says, I don't want to have to get into all the social media posts just for marketing. I feel like the equine world is still one where word of mouth referrals are valid and common. And I agree with that. I think one of the best things that you can do is be where the equestrians in your area are. Like, I used to go and shoot like eventing clinics because that's like I was hired to do portraits by a lot of eventers. So why not have my face there and be taking photos there? And I think we get really hung up on being online all the time and doing all our marketing through social media, and we forget how powerful it is to show our face to other people and make these meaningful in-person connections. I know some people will, shoot a horse show here or there just for the marketing aspect. I mean, before social media, I could not have had an equine photography business because I didn't want to do shows. And so it was, when somebody wanted a photographer, they just picked the person who shot at their shows. And I had a really hard time getting any traction before that. Okay, so let's just open up to a general Q&A now. If you have questions about my Pegasus mentorship or any of the mentorships, I have the Wings, which will start again in January. It just ended. Or if you are interested in Pegasus, have a question, or just, I don't know, want to pick my brain about something, I'm happy to be here. Tip or trick for finding your niche within the industry or working around the whole idea of a niche as a heart focused business or photographer? Yeah, I mean, I think I'm assuming you mean by niche, you mean like I'm the English photographer or I'm the Western photographer. Is that like that kind of a niche? I think a lot of it is, where your connections lie. I actually started writing dressage because all my clients were dressage and jumping people, and I didn't want to be like over here like as a Western rider trying to attract English clients, and now I like totally love dressage. So I think finding your niche within the industry is really about just trying a lot of different things and seeing what you love. My Jackie, who is here and was in the first Pegasus, recently photographed an all-day barrel race, and she hated it. But she had to try it to know that. And then she photographed a roping and she loved it. And so I think part of it is just getting out there and trying a lot of different things and finding out what you love. My core thing that I love that I'm still trying to figure out how to fully bring it into my my equine photography is I love storytelling. I love documentary work. I was a very documentary wedding photographer, and by documentary, I do not mean fly on the wall. Like, I got yelled at by so many church ladies for being close to my subjects. Um, and so that's like something that makes my heart beat and heart race. And I have to still kind of figure out where that fits within my whole mix of photography. And it might just be personal work for a while. And then that's another thing, don't just shoot when you're getting paid. Like if you're trying to figure out your niche, just go shoot a bunch of stuff and don't expect to get paid for it. Do personal projects, go out and experiment and try things. I'm a huge proponent of that because I think you can really discover yourself. But when you have money at stake, then I think you don't have the same freedom in your heart to just go and play. Um, Aaron asked, what's the difference between the two? Great idea. I'm assuming you mean Wings and Pegasus. So Wings it used to just be all one thing called Pegasus. And then I had met with a membership coach. And she suggested one of the problems with the first Pegasus was I had people at too many different skill levels. So I had some real beginners and some really experienced photographers. And it was a little tricky trying to get everybody in a place where they were learning equally. And it helps that we do a monthly one-on-one all throughout Pegasus for 6 months. And so each person got individualized instruction from me. And I think they all felt like there was value in that. But the idea of Wings was to be an accelerator, to get people really solid on their photography skills. So Wings is like, what settings you need, how to find the light, how to make powerful compositions, how to do editing and retouching and black backgrounds and white backgrounds and how to edit those. So it's all that kind of like core photography stuff. And then Pegasus is for more experienced photographers who are really looking to grow their business and then learn advanced skills. And we really go heavy on advanced skills at the 5-day retreat that happens in July, where we're all hands-on and I can like really teach things. Like we set up an entire studio and with lighting and one side with white background and continuous lighting, the other side with strobes and more of a traditional background. And we do a video shoot and we do off-camera flash and all sorts of, just really advanced photography skills so that you can set yourself apart. I fully believe that my photography skills and the fact that I worked on my craft so hard when I was especially a wedding photographer is a big reason why I'm as successful as I am in the industry, and my work is set apart. And you have to have those advanced skills if you want to really kind of, I'm going to say it again, but set yourself apart. But I will put a link to both mentorships in the comments, and the pages for those give a breakdown of like what's in every lesson, when the retreat is, just everything. So Wings opens up again in January. So I'll start promoting that in December, and there are 20 spots in Wings and 6 in Pegasus. And I answered Lavana's question. Karen Perry, I almost thought I said that wrong because I was thinking Katy Perry. I am well connected with a successful trainer shooting his monthly clinics. This has led to participants asking for social media portraits for their Facebook page. So she's been asked, okay, so this is a really good example. Like Karen's been going to clinics and people are starting to find out who she is. Other people are starting to ask her to do things. So that's a great example of that. And her skills need to improve on how to market, yes, without feeling like her work has been pirated. I'm not really sure what you mean by that last part, but yeah, the advanced skills will really, really help you, even feel like you can charge more. All right, I'm just checking to see if there's any questions that I missed. Pegasus mentor. No, you don't have to be a portrait photographer. And that that is why I asked you follow-up questions in email, Devin, because I hadn't really considered that somebody who's thinking more towards like freelance editorial or photography like that might also be a good fit. All right. So does anybody else have questions? I'd love to answer any other questions. Oh, Raphael has a question. Did you find that you had to create a specific Instagram and website for just equine photography content from the beginning to attract clients? I did both. I mean, I've always only had one, Facebook, Instagram page. And when I was shooting weddings, engagements, seniors, and equine, everything went on that page. And it wasn't until I switched fully to equine. I'm not even sure, like if you scroll back far enough on my Instagram, you can probably find wedding work. I don't know that I ever archived all of that. And I don't know how far back even Instagram goes, but at the time I thought I got so many weddings with horses because people saw that I was a horse photographer, or engagement sessions with horses, which was like a total bonus when you're like a horse lover who's doing weddings. I had people like have horses in their weddings, even though they have nothing to do with horses because they loved what I did with horses and weddings. So yeah, that's kind of how I approached it. Was I always put my best and my favorite work on Instagram and Facebook, and that was part of my email this month too. Is when you're putting together a portfolio on your website, it is a bad idea to say, look, I can do all the things, and not say, look, this is the really unique stuff that I can do, and that I want to do more of. Okay. Jessica, what were some of your early barriers to overcome when niching down to equine photography? Money. um, yeah, I mean, there was a lot of fear of not having enough money to live on and to support my my horse habit and all of that. And just yeah, just um, figuring out how to find the clients and increase my exposure in the local area. I was never a big travel for portrait photographer. I'm so super picky about light. I rarely shoot on cloudy days, and the idea of traveling for a portrait session where I have like 1 or 2 days to like achieve a good light and good weather, it was just beyond my personal tolerance. And so I made it work here in Minnesota. But in Minnesota, we have tons and tons of horses and horse people. Okay. Um, I'm losing track here. It keeps popping down. One piece of advice I wish someone had told me before I was starting out. Oh, I have an answer to this. I'm trying to remember what it is. I think probably, and I shared this in a post recently, that I didn't have to be all things to all people. When I first started out, it was like, you want to pay me to take pictures? I'll take a picture of it. I was an architectural photographer. I photographed newborns very badly. I photographed families, seniors, horses, weddings. I mean, I didn't ever do boudoir. But I kind of did almost everything else because I thought you had to. But that was like 18 years ago, and there wasn't social media, there wasn't this many photographers. It was really the beginning of the digital era. Do I do portfolio reviews? No, but I've been thinking about it. There's a part of me that feels like maybe I'm not totally qualified to do that, but I think it's been on my heart. And one of my, like, honestly, like one of the things that I do is a lot of times things are on my heart before, like long before I ever take any action. And it's almost like this, like, like a burden that becomes a thing in my heart. Like when I started these mentorship programs, it was like day and night all I could think about. And I'd be like, no, 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 no. And then the next minute it was back. And no, 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 no. And it was just like it's like a drum beat. And that happens a lot when I make a change in my business. I recently stopped taking new clients for portrait sessions because I'm very busy doing commercial and editorial and stock work and mentorships. And that was a super tough decision to make. But it was a drumbeat for like over a month. And I finally was like, okay, I'm just going to set my intention to do this and see how it feels. And it's almost like a release for me. And I know this sounds super woo woo, and I'm sorry if you're like, okay, Shelly. But for me, that's the kind of intuition and heart that leads my business. And I'm also a person of faith, and I believe that a lot of that comes from my relationship with God. Yes, you don't have to be everything to everyone. I was at a workshop, and the workshop leader basically told me that, and I was openly weeping at this workshop, and there was like 7 other people there, and they were so kind to me. And I'm not like, I come across as like this really emotional person, but if you meet me in real life, I'm very steady. Not like, I don't like cry constantly or anything. And so it was me openly weeping was like me just like letting out all the frustration that I had about like shooting all these things that I didn't love. Levon is asking, what products do horse people purchase the most? I think they purchase the most the ones that you love. And I love canvases and medals that hang, big ones that hang on the wall. If I could show you around my office, it's just canvases everywhere. And I also love albums. And so every one of my portrait clients is forced to have an album and has a wall art credit. And then I do in-person or Zoom ordering sessions. So I help people kind of decide all the things with those products. But those are really the big ones for me, but that's because that's what I love. And I've talked to a lot of other photographers who, like some really love acrylics, and everybody, they encourage everyone to buy acrylics. And so I think it has a lot to do with what you love. All right. Does anybody have any last words or questions or thoughts about being heart driven? You guys think I'm crazy? I'm just so thankful that you guys showed up. I feel very relieved. I'm been nervous all day about this, so hopefully it sounded like cohesive. Yeah, so Karen said a Zoom session. That started during the pandemic. That I started doing ordering sessions over Zoom because we weren't supposed to be in person with people. And now it's like, great, I don't have to clean my house to have people come here for an ordering session. But they miss out on the whole like touch and feel the products. And yeah. Okay. Thank you, Jessica, for making me feel less crazy. Um, yeah. And yes, Erica, there will be a replay for sure. I put this on my personal page by accident, but I'll put a link to it on my other page too. Brandy asked a really good question about model calls for building a portfolio. Yes and no. Um, I think public model calls are usually kind of a bad idea because you can get some very strange people. Was it you? You might have shared something about that. Um, but what I prefer to do is choose the people that I'm shooting if I wanted something specific for my portfolio, or in my case, it's like I'm shooting for a stock photo concept. I like to work my own connections or find local equestrians. As far as like doing it for a portrait business, find those influencers, find those people who post all the time and have big followings and go do shoots for them. You can build a business on that. I know someone who has. um, all right. No one thinks I'm crazy. Woo! Good. I'm glad this encouraged you, Aaron. Ashley, I am coming to Kentucky in May. Message me. Um, Amy says she appreciates my heart-driven perspective. I think I'm going to be talking about this topic a lot more, just because I think for those of us who are, more heart-driven, intuition-driven, I think we need to know that we're not alone, and that it's okay. It's okay to not be a shark. Not that that's the only other alternative, but I'm not a great like financial person. I'm not very good at math. My husband does all the accounting, but I try to be responsible as a business person on along with being heart driven. So they're not mutually exclusive. Karen's wondering about the discussion. I'm not sure from your standpoint, where you'd be able to see the discussion. I think it would be in the comments of the video, and in the replay, it should be down the side. I think on the replay too. All right, wow, you guys, we went for 45 minutes. I was afraid it would be like 15 minutes. We'd be like, okay, I guess we're done. Oh, this is the sensitive part of me. But you guys made this a lot less scary, and I really appreciate you being here. And so in the link or in the comments, I'm going to put a link to both my mentorships, to the worksheet that I made for you, and to the pen video. What else? I think that was it. If I forget, somebody's going to remind me. All right. Well, thank you guys for coming. It's not a streaming video thing if I don't wave, right? So, again, thank you guys so much. I appreciate you making this a lot more fun.